we're supposed to do something like this.
Like what?
Welcome to date night.
No, it's not date night.
This is going to be our date night because we haven't had a date night in a while, just between me and you. So tonight is our date night, and we're using it to have fun. So we're going to have fun with our listeners. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Married in the Midwest. It's a podcast where we talk about life, kids, relationships, drama, all sorts of fun things. But tonight, I'm really using it just to have an excuse to have a date night with you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. This should be good. We're going to talk about how toxic we were in our youth.
Oh, perfect for a date night.
Yeah, yes. Excellent.
And hopefully we'll also talk about how we stopped being toxic in our maturity, in our mature years.
Mm-hmm.
How everybody else
A few of us had to grow up.
I did too.
Mm-hmm.
But how maybe others can avoid toxic relationships too, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, at least from our perspective, our Midwest perspective here. So.
All right. Well, to kick us off, let's start out with our Reddit story for today. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Am I the asshole for yelling at my girlfriend due to her camera roll? Me, 23 male, and my girlfriend, 21 female, have been together for 4 months now. She's great. Beautiful, crazy, intelligent, and has the best personality. Genuinely my dream girl. Except for one issue. Her camera roll. For background, she dated a guy for 4 years in high school and the first half of college. She broke up with him last year and has dated other people since then, leading up to me. She never really talks about him unless telling a past story about her friend group, which he was a part of until he suddenly up and left. According to her, the reason they broke up is she realized they were on 2 different levels of maturity. When I mean she's intelligent, I mean she's well known around campus and every professor adores her, and we go to the Big 12 university. So you get my point. She also got life-threatening sick, and while he was worried for her, she knew he wouldn't be responsible enough to take care of her in the future. Progressive heart disease. They ended on good terms, but they don't talk anymore because he is kind of an introverted guy, according to her. The part I get upset about is every time she opens up her camera roll to show me a past picture, she scrolls past photos or videos of him and her together. I've brought this up to her before. She always laughs and says it's just because she's too lazy to go through 30,000 photos. She hasn't deleted a picture since 2015. These photos and videos of him and her aren't romantic by any means. They're high school shenanigans and usually involve other friends. But I still can't help but feel jealous. Today, she showed me a photo of her friends in 2018, telling me a funny story. He's in the photo. I said, "You have a lot of pictures with him," in an annoyed tone. And she said, "Well, yeah, he grew up with me and my friends. We were kids together. It's like a look back into my childhood," and I told her I didn't like those pictures. And she offered to remove them and put them on a drive. I told her that wasn't enough. She told me they were precious memories she shared with her friends and she wasn't going to delete them just because he was in a couple. I kind of raised my voice and I told her she should go back to him if the memories were so precious. She got up and said, "I don't want to go back to him, but I also don't want to be with somebody who is emotionally insecure. I have enough to deal with and enough on my plate." And then she got up and left. I've debated on texting her and apologizing. Am I the asshole?
Yep. You are the asshole and 100% emotionally immature, and she does sound like a dream girl. She does sound like she's got her shit together and can recognize her value and her worth and recognize that those are parts of her history. And that time that she spent with that other partner helped contribute to who she is now. And she shouldn't need to erase her history with someone just because her current partner does not like him or like seeing the memory of him in her camera roll. So I think he should apologize. I think her compromise, which it sounded like she was trying to compromise. Okay, you don't appreciate seeing this on my phone whenever I pull up pictures. I can take these pictures off of my phone. I can put them on a jump drive so that I have them like they're precious memories. I mean, 4 years of her life, when you are together with someone, they are going to end up being in photos. I think that, yes, he is the asshole. And I think that if she were to make that same request, I wonder really how he would respond. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's the asshole in this situation, especially since he even acknowledged that they're like high school photos. They're just shenanigans. They're not romantic. It's not like they didn't get married. They're not wedding photos. They're not of those two like making out or
Romantic.
kissing in a bed, right? Like they're just fun photos with groups of people. I think, and I think that person, that he needs to do some self-discovery himself to like really determine why he's so upset about these photos. Like there's some major insecurities there. It'd be like when we first started dating, I had a bunch of pictures. You had a bunch of like scrapbooking stuff.
Yeah, I did. I scrapbooked.
You scrapbooked a lot.
Yeah, I did, because my previous boyfriend's mom sold scrapbooking stuff, so even probably worse.
Yeah,
for you.
so there's, like it'd be like going through those scrapbooks and being like, why do you have this Christmas from 4 years ago with your whole family? Like, why didn't you? I shouldn't name drop, I guess, but Ryan's in there. Why is? You need to take that out. You need to get rid of this scrapbook page.
Silly.
Like, that's just ridiculous.
So I do think that they have hope, though, because he's asking this question. I feel like he's self-reflecting a little bit, and I feel like he has room to be like, oh, am I in the wrong here? I'm having this emotional response, right? And he's allowed to have that emotional response. He's allowed to have jealousy because we're human. But it's what you do with that, and like you said, that self-discovery, that introspection, the figuring out, like, well, okay, well, why am I having problems with this? Especially because people are going to date more than one person in their lifetime generally. I mean, sometimes there's only one person that they date in their lifetime, and they just get it right the first time. But most of the time, people are going to have histories with other people, and that's how they learn. That's how they learn to be good partners. That's how they learn what they like, what they don't like. And so you can't fault someone for just having a history and a past with other people.
Right. I also think when you're looking at this, they're 23.
Yeah.
He was 23. She was 21.
They're pretty young.
They're pretty young.
They're just
they
babies.
There's a lot of growing up that happens, in my opinion, especially for guys.
In your 20s.
From like 20 to about 26, 28. Maybe 30. I'm not sure. But a lot of growth.
I'll just say your 20s.
Yeah, your 20s. A lot of growth happens in those years.
Yeah.
So but realistically, for me, I think it was like up until 26-ish.
Yeah.
To where like I started to mature. I started to not have some of those insecurities. Mm-hmm. We were very toxic during our youth.
I think we were. Yeah. Well, we started dating when we were 17. I dated Ryan for like a year before I dated you, and really didn't have any other serious boyfriends prior to dating you. And you had a lot of not very serious girlfriends before dating me, a lot of them.
Yep, that's accurate.
Yeah, and so when you're that young, I think you're just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
We did eventually. I think it took a lot of steps, though. Okay, so let's go back in time. So we were 17, we started dating. I don't think that we started dating on a super great foot. Speaking as I was breaking up with Ryan as I was starting to date you, or we were broken up and there was this like, oh, who should I be with?
That's how I planned it. Just saying.
It was the debate in my brain. And so it's funny looking back, though, because I remember thinking, oh, Ryan, he comes from such a stable family, and, they have sort of similar religions or whatnot, and he seems like the safer choice. And you grew up with a single mom. You were a little wild, a little crazy, a little you were so outgoing, which was not what I was, for sure. So like you pushed, you were exciting. You maybe were a little dangerous. I don't know. It's
a bad boy.
Drove motorcycles and you played hockey. I mean, that's all anybody needs to know.
Fair enough.
We didn't have the cleanest start to our relationship, I don't think, because there was a little bit of turmoil in there.
Yeah. So when you look back on like the relationship that we had, how can you determine, like, for other people that are listening, maybe in their youth still, in their 20s, like this couple, like how do you recognize, okay, this is a good relationship, these are good habits that I'm forming, versus these are bad habits?
I think that's a really broad and kind of hard question.
All right, I'm going to jump in then.
All
You
right,
can
you
think
go
on
ahead.
it. I think in our youth, I think we both had moments of trying to control the other person at times, going out and drinking with your friends, or like, hey, you're not going to drink without me there, right? Like, I think it's a very youthful thing.
I think it's okay to have boundaries. Or maybe it's more like you were very different from me. And so sometimes I really wanted you to change.
Yeah.
And I wasn't here for how you were experiencing life or how you were, your path was different from mine. While I worked at an assisted living and started work at 6:30, you worked as a server and you worked until 2:30 in the morning. So like our hours didn't line up, and then you'd want to go play video games with your friends afterward. I think that our paths were just really different at that time too.
Yeah.
And so I wanted you to come home and be a homebody and be with me and sleep in the same bed and do all that kind of stuff. And you wanted to be a bit more adventurous.
I wanted to go out with the crew after.
Right.
We did a lot of yelling in our youth.
Yeah.
I think that's super toxic. Raising your voice. He said he raised his voice over these pictures.
I did not like that.
I did not like that.
That's like kind of, that's a problem I think with, and as we are parenting, right? You focus a lot on regulating yourself because, I mean, the goal is not to yell, right? But the stakes I feel like are higher when you're actually raising a tiny human being to be a grown-up human being someday versus when you're in a relationship with someone who is of equal age and status and stature and so forth. So I think it's easy to fall into that trap of like, here are my emotions. I'm so upset with you and I'm going to express my emotions without regulating myself whatsoever because you need to hear how I feel. I think that yelling was super toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we also would not communicate very well. Our communication about what the other person needed within that relationship. I probably neglected some of your fears and insecurities. I didn't listen to you as much as I should have, and probably vice versa.
Yeah. And okay, so we were thinking about like toxic traits and whatnot and just how our relationship wasn't perfect when we were younger. And went online, did a little digging, right? And we found an article about the Four Horsemen. And I think that kind of summed it up really, really nicely as far as like what the traps that we were kind of falling into too, way back in the day in our younger 20s.
Yeah.
Because I think the first one was, criticism. So really verbally attacking personality or character. And maybe we should explain what this Four Horsemen really is, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a psychologist who's done a lot of studying, Dr. Gottman, regarding relationships between romantic partners, and they identified 4 characteristics of toxic behaviors, and they called them the Four Horsemen, kind of in as a nod to the 4 horsemen of the Bible and Revelations, as like the apocalypse and the end of the world.
Right. And John Gottman related that back to the end of a relationship. So the apocalypse, the end of that relationship. And it was said that during his study, he was able to predict with 90% accuracy the couples that were either going to get divorced or break up during that period of time. So pretty spot on.
Okay, so first one they talked about was criticism, which they define as verbally attacking personality or a character. So almost like nitpicking, like not being constructive in the way that you go about it and not being building up in any sort of way or talking about, what a better way to do things or anything like that, but really just criticizing someone for their personality and their personality traits and for who they are and really nitpicking on that. Do you think we did that back in the day? I probably criticized a lot. I think I did.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. 100%. I'm going to find an example here because there was a bunch of them. You don't ever think of me. All you care about is yourself, right? You're going out and playing video games until 4 a.m. All you're thinking about is yourself.
I have to work in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a fair share of that.
Okay, so fast forward, here we are. We're like, we've known each other longer now than we haven't known each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been married 7 years.
7
Lucky
years.
number 7, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. Criticism. Do you think this comes up a lot now?
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah. I think we're careful not to. Like, we're more about being on the same team and problem solving versus saying what's not good about each other.
Yeah, I cannot really recall a time during our marriage
So we've let
engagement
that go.
even. Yeah. Like, we grew up. There was a period of time when, like, we both went our separate ways for a period of time, and there was a lot of growth. So I would say, yeah, there's no name calling. There's no really putting the other person down.
Name calling too. I think that's super toxic, and I think that probably comes in this category here, or maybe the next category.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine like calling you a name.
Oh, thank you.
So
same. Okay, so instead of criticism, how do you express your emotions and your feelings towards somebody else when you are disagreeing, right? Without criticizing. And so the antidote to the horsemen of criticism is gentle startup. So talking about feelings using I statements and expressing positive needs. So all this brings me back to I feel. So
I feel very frustrated when I walk through the door and there's a big pile of dishes and it overwhelms me.
Yeah.
Do you think you could help with that?
Yeah. See, that would be so much better than you never do the dishes.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? You never do the dishes.
I hate the dishes.
I know
they're
you
the worst. People, they're the worst.
It's so good you do them, though.
All right, number 2, contempt.
Which is attaching a sense of self with intent to insult or abuse. So that one is more like name calling and just outright being mean.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Your purpose is to hurt the other one.
Right. Rather than solve the problem, you're trying to take that other person down a notch.
Yeah. So if there is contempt in that relationship, super toxic.
Right.
So that's where a lot of your manipulation tactics and abuse come through, as far as like the verbal abuse, physical abuse, manipulation, as far as the whole gaslighting thing, where accusation of you are being crazy, you are acting crazy. I think that is one that is super common, especially towards women and young women. I think I did that a lot. You did that a lot. I remember when we were in our younger years, and I think that you were honestly conditioned, and I'm sure you had conversations with your friends about Amy trying to hold a boundary or having an expectation that differed from yours, and because I wasn't on the same page with you, then I was crazy. Right. We couldn't ever find the middle ground. No. And I mean, to give the listeners some like idea of where we were at that point in time, I had a lot of friends. I worked in an industry, in the serving industry, that there were a lot of females in that industry and serving. So that was my core group of friends, were a lot of females. And I would go out after I finished a 5 to 2 shift. We'd go to campfires or go and play video games. Well, why are you playing video games with a bunch of girls? And I'd be like, well, there was guys there. Like, I would say you were being crazy back then. Mm-hmm. I can look at it now and say, I understand why you felt the way you felt. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't there yet. I wasn't in a place emotionally to think about the other person. Mm-hmm. Nor did I really understand how it affected you. Right. Until later on in our relationship. Right. And it was wrong. I'm going to say it was wrong. I'm going to fucking get roasted by the internet. I don't think it was wrong. I think it was that we were in different places. I think it was maybe wrong for our relationship. Okay, so, and we might be talking about different things right now. So do you think that your actions were wrong, or how you spoke to me about your actions were not wrong? I think about
like looking back, like how I spoke to you about my actions was probably, those were wrong.
Okay. Yeah. So the saying, no, you're crazy.
Yeah, that was bad.
Right.
Like that was a toxic trait.
That was a toxic trait. Okay. Yeah. So clarifying, because I think we were talking about two different things.
Yeah.
there.
Like, but like me going and hanging out with these people as friends, like I don't think that was wrong at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, out of respect of our relationship as we got older, I would have never gone and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go after this podcast at midnight, 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to a friend's house that's a female and hang out and watch movies or whatever. Like that's a thing of the youth.
But maybe also it's a thing of less serious relationships. Maybe what I was looking for at that time was a really serious relationship, and maybe what you were looking for was not so much of a serious relationship, because I was never like okay with it. And so that also, like looking back, since we were on completely two different pages again, instead of trying to change each other, I mean, which we could have tried to come to terms a little bit. Maybe I could have met those girls more, see if we jived and see if I could trust the situation a little bit more.
Right.
Maybe there could have been things that we could do to help each other feel comfortable with that. Yeah. But also maybe we were at just different spots, and
I think that's a lot to do with it, right? Like,
yeah.
I also think there's just a lot that goes into that, because we were just not on the same page. I'm sweating over the comments that are going to transpire over this conversation.
It's fine. I think a lot of people will relate to you, though, just being in that spot, in that position. And I think there's probably a lot of people that'll relate to me, too.
Yeah.
But maybe, I do look back and I think that at that time in our lives, we probably shouldn't have been together, honestly, at that point.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 100%.
Because again, you shouldn't be trying to change your partner, especially if they are so steadfast in what they feel that they're doing is right.
Sure. All right. So, number 3.
Okay.
Defensiveness.
Yes. I think a lot of the contempt, a lot of the criticism will lead to defensiveness. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think the contempt definitely can lead to defensiveness. A lot of, well, I would have done this differently if you had done X, Y, and Z. I would have did those dishes had you picked up laundry detergent or dishwasher detergent at the store, right? So you're actually the stupid one, not me. I didn't do it.
You can look at those toxic traits you combine in there: name calling and defensiveness. I know, it felt good.
I'm kidding.
You're
See, they're going to yell at me.
Oh, that's okay. Don't yell at him. He's pretty great, actually.
Yeah, taking on the victim mentality. Oh, poor me. Like, you're always so mean to me. I think that can be a bad habit if you get into that.
Yeah, because when you're on the defense, you're also never focused on the problem. You're never focused on what you're actually talking about. You're just focusing on protecting yourself and not taking the blame.
Sure.
So you can't really ever move forward.
There's no accountability.
Yeah.
You're not taking responsibility for your actions of, you're right, I really should have did the dishes. I've watched them pile up for the last 3 to 4 days.
I think that one's a hard one for me to let go of.
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
I grew up in a household where everything was always someone's fault. Like, it doesn't matter what it could have been the purest of accidents.
If you've ever worked with Amy's dad on construction problems.
We love him.
Or projects.
And this is how he was raised, I'm sure. Everything is always someone's fault. And so I think growing up with that, there's still a little bit of that buried deep inside me where I'm like, no, it's not my fault. It's not. It was the wind. Seriously, it was the wind. So I think that I still struggle with that. And I think just as a general, I have people-pleasing tendencies also. And so if someone is unhappy, that just, it irks me. I think that I do still hold on to that a little bit. And I probably should work on that a little bit.
Okay. What's the 4th one? What's the fourth?
The fourth one, we're moving on.
We're moving on.
All right. The fourth one is, wait, hold on. We need to talk about, okay, so how do I work on that defensiveness? Because how do you rectify these toxic traits and make sure that your relationship that you're actually currently in is a healthy one? Or how do you move towards a more healthy
Take accountability
relationship?
for your actions. It's simple.
Okay, it might not have been the wind. No, yes, take accountability, take responsibility, accept your partner's perspective, and offer an apology for any wrongdoing. I do feel like I'm good at that.
You are.
Yeah.
It might take you a little bit of time, but you do come around.
I do come around eventually. It might take me a little bit of time, but my apologies are always heartfelt.
Mm-hmm.
So, and honest and true. And I think that that's really important in an apology, because if an apology that just comes out of your mouth because you feel like you should do it is not a true apology.
That's true.
And people know. People know
They
if you're
know.
not like sincere.
Yeah, I'm sorry, whatever.
Shut up.
All right. Stonewalling.
You're so funny.
The fourth,
What is stonewalling, Matt?
backing out of the conversation, walking away, not continuing on with an argument, a discussion, whatever that may be. I am getting better at that. I don't like to express my emotions
maybe this is the
and
one
feelings.
you're struggling with.
So yeah,
Yes.
I often will just shut down my emotions. I sometimes just think, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop talking. We're moving on. Just and turn your emotions off.
Let's talk about your childhood. Just kidding.
Thank you.
You come around though now, but I think that's, especially in our younger years, that was a harder thing to do, right? So you just don't want to talk about it. You don't want to acknowledge those emotions. Those emotions are hard. Those emotions are uncomfortable. You don't want to walk through them and work through them. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but I think it's super important to do that and to remember that emotions are just that. They're just emotions. They're not going to hurt you. You are able to survive them.
Yeah.
And you can walk through them, and when you do walk through them and you feel them and you can sit in them for a little bit, and that's okay. It'll tell you something. It'll teach you something about your perspective and how you should move on from there. So emotions and strong emotions are not something to be afraid of, so I think that that's where a lot of stonewalling comes from. And my perspective comes from things that I have learned with parenting. So I really hope that a therapist will dive in here and be like, Amy, you're 100% on point, or Amy, you are 100% not. So what do you think about that?
No, I agree with you. I think it's important to discuss and not shut down and get your emotions out there and have a constructive conversation so you can avoid an issue in the future. Because if you just keep shutting down and you're not addressing the issue, it's just going to keep coming up and arising, right?
It's not going to get better if you don't
doesn't get
address
better.
it. If you don't communicate about it, it's for sure not going to get better.
So, and I think when you look at all four of these aspects, I think that a lot of this can be avoided just from the standpoint of having good communication with your partner, being open, being honest, being respectful, kind, with the intent that you are trying to be better.
And remembering that, especially when there's an issue, it's not you against your partner. It's you and your partner together against the problem.
Right.
So having that perspective shift and being like, we are a team here, and there's an issue at hand and we need to figure this out, versus it's me versus you, and who's going to be right and who's going to win. Whose fault is it? Please, not everything needs to be somebody's fault, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can just be.
It can just be. It's the wind.
So for somebody who's stuck in a bad relationship, how do you get out of it? Let's say you've tried to address the issues and you're still coming up with these four traits.
Maybe you're still not on the same page.
Right? So walk away. It's okay. You know,
it is.
Right person, right place, right time.
Yeah.
Trifecta. You have to have the trifecta.
Right.
We walked away for a
did.
period of time.
And I think taking that time for us, what was like ultimately important for us to be together is that we actually had to work on ourselves each separately. So I had to grow as a person. And for me, developing my self-confidence and knowing my self-worth, I think that was super, super important. Accomplishing the goals that I set out to do, I think that made a huge difference and positive impact on our relationship. Like, I was a better person to be in a relationship with anybody, but with you, after I was able to do that. So for me, the big time and moment was when I went to PA school, right? So I went and I moved away. I went down to Florida. You wanted to come down and move with me. I told you no, because I wanted to focus on school. And we had our time separately. And I think that you grew a lot during that time too. And us being apart and having that long distance relationship, I think that really forced us to focus on our communication skills. Because, I mean, well, when you're however many thousand miles apart, like, that's kind of all you have.
Yeah. And we stayed in touch, and we watched Game of Thrones over the phone together.
Yes, we did.
So
that was cute.
That was good.
That was cute. So I think that really made a big difference for us. Like, really, honestly, taking time for yourself and focusing on how can I be my best person, and not for anybody else, but for myself.
Yeah.
Because when you're that, then you know what you expect out of somebody else. And honestly, I came back and I probably was better at holding my boundaries, and I was better at realizing, like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm all about. This is what I expect out of a relationship, and this is what I want out of a relationship. And if you don't want the same things, and we're not on the same page, that's okay, but I'm not going to continue to be in a relationship with you.
Right.
And luckily for us, at that point, you were on the same page and you were ready to kind of join me, I guess. And
yeah, one of us needed to grow up. So there you have it. And we made it.
Oh, 7 years married. How many together? Well, since we met and dated 21. Off and on through our 20s. 21 years?
Yep.
Man, I'm never doing that math again.
It's easy. We met when we were 16.
No, I know, but it makes me feel
37.
old. I need more Botox.
Gosh. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we can wrap this up. I know we talked about our youth and how that kind of shaped us. We had very different upbringings, and when you are with somebody from different upbringings, there's a lot of curveballs. There's a lot of learning opportunities from one another, for sure. And I don't think, we talked about toxic traits, but for anybody out there that's in a relationship and you feel that it's toxic, or you don't feel like that's the right person, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to go and grow. We didn't touch on many of the toxic traits that are out there. Abusiveness. No.
This is probably a very surface
dishonesty,
level discussion. Yeah.
Intimidation, manipulation.
All those things.
Which I'm sure will come up on future episodes for sure. So,
and it is a much harder thing than just walking away, right? For a lot of people, there's a lot of variables involved, and we recognize that that's a complex and complicated situation for a lot of people. But sometimes, if you know in your heart that the best thing for you, the best thing for your family is to walk away from that relationship, then find that courage, find those help centers, especially if you're in an abusive relationship, and know your worth, because you're worth it. You're worth it just by being a human being and being you. Nobody is deserving of these toxic traits. Nobody is deserving of being treated poorly.
All right. And now I'm going to jump back. You're absolutely right. I'm going to jump back because we didn't look at what anybody said.
Oh, forgot about comments. What did everybody say with this Reddit story?
You're the asshole.
Yeah.
She's right. You're emotionally insecure.
Yep. You got to grow up a little bit.
Dear God, no. Don't apologize. I'm afraid she might take you back. You are the asshole.
Oh, that one. Okay, that one takes the cake. I was like, what in the world?
Good for her. No doubt she knows her worth, and she won't put up with your shit. So there is a resounding thread.
So did he ever respond? And
He
did
did.
okay, and was it like okay, my bad, or was it you all know nothing and went on the defensive horseman? What did he do?
The last update from OP is I texted her this morning, and I apologized for crossing a line.
He took accountability.
He took accountability.
See, there's hope.
She said while she did accept my apology, the relationship wouldn't be continuing any further. She said a lack of self-awareness and my emotional maturity is not something she can really overlook at this point in time. So, I guess I'm single now.
Hey, maybe it's just time for some self-growth, man.
Some self-love.
A little bit of self-love. I guess so. And some growth and some maturity. And you live and you learn and you become a better person for your next partner. Or if you're like we are, maybe years and years down the road, you'll reconnect and you'll be just all the better for it.
All right, and that's that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And please be sure to follow us on our Instagram, Midwest Married. You can find us, or Married in the Midwest Podcast.